Welcome, friends, to another Wolff Responds. I call this one the coming U.S. war economy. And it begins with taking seriously Donald Trump's statement of a couple of weeks ago that he plans on an increase in the U.S., what we used to call the defense budget. But now that the Defense Department has changed its name to the War Department, it's the war budget. And he's going to increase it, he said, to around $1.5 trillion in 1 year. Currently, it stands at around $900 billion. So this is an increase of $600 billion in 1 year. And since we never cut our defense budgets, we only increase them, future years, I assume, will be increases based on 1.5 trillion rather than the current 900 billion. But what matters here are not these numbers, but the sheer growth. $600 billion. Let me give you an idea of what that means. In the entirety of 2025, the year just passed, one new source of revenue was created by Mr. Trump, and that was a tax. Unlike other Republicans who used to say they were against taxes, Mr. Trump says that, but in actuality, he raised the taxes. Why? How? The answer is the tariff. Mr. Trump imposed a tariff, and a tariff is a tax. It is paid by the American company or the American citizen that brings foreign goods into the United States. When those goods cross the border into the United States, then they must pay the tariff. And the money they pay goes to Uncle Sam. It's paid by the American company that brings the goods in, or the American citizen, or any company, even if it isn't American, but that's based here in the United States, they pay Uncle Sam. How much did the tariffs generate? The basic estimate of most sources is in the neighborhood of $200 billion. And because Mr. Trump is constantly changing the tariffs and offering countries various kinds of deals that involve lowering the tariffs, well, that's probably a pretty good estimate of how much that's going to raise this year, next year. Well, there follows what? The fact that if the largest single increase in revenue is the tariff, the one new big tax, and it raised $200 billion, and Mr. Trump is going to increase the defense budget by $600 billion, well, I got news for you. 6 is larger than 2. Much larger. And that means the government is going to have to borrow the extra money in order to pay for the war economy. Of course, they could do something else. They could decide that if they're going to spend all that extra money on war, they will tax the American people. Each of us, you, me, stores, factories, offices, everybody could have their tax go up by thousands and thousands of dollars a year to pay for this new war economy. But you and I both know that Mr. Trump is not going to do that, because if he did, he would lose the November election this year by an amount that would blow the history books right out of the library. Because if Americans have a choice between seeing 6 more fancy jets or holding on to 5 or 10 grand for their family, we all know which way they're going to go. So the way you get a war economy in this country is by not taxing people. You have to borrow the money. Of course, who do you borrow from? The average American can't lend money to the government. They barely cover their own expenses. So when the government borrows, it has to borrow either from rich Americans, and it does that, or from large corporations, and it does that, or from foreign corporations and foreign governments, and it does that too. Those are the creditors of the United States. And they have lent the United States a ton of money. The United States, in case you're not aware of it, is the largest debtor country in the world. We only have 4.5% of the world's people, but we are the largest indebted country on this planet. And we're so indebted, and it has gone up so badly in the last few years, by the way, under Democrats and Republicans alike, that we have had scary indications that the rest of the world, including American rich people and including American corporations, they don't want to lend more to us. They're afraid that we are so indebted that lending us more money is beginning to get into a situation where we might not be able to pay. How would this work? Well, it's easy. The United States government, of course, has to pay these debts back. It has to pay interest. I like to tell people a little statistic which you will never hear, not from Mr. Biden and not from Mr. Trump. The second biggest lender, creditor of the United States is the People's Republic of China. That's right. The Communist Party of China made the decision to lend money to the United States government, hundreds of billions of dollars. And because it did, the United States has to pay interest on that debt, and they have to pay it to China like they have to pay it to anyone else that the U.S. borrows from. So every year, something in the neighborhood of $40 billion, that's a lot of money. $40 billion is collected in taxes by the U.S. government from you and me, and then put in an envelope and sent to the Communist Party of China because it's theirs to do with as they see fit. It's theirs. We have to do that because our government didn't tax corporations and the rich who have the money. It chose instead to borrow. And that's what it's about to do so that we can have a 50% bigger military than we already have. The United States has already gotten, and has had for many years, the largest military on earth. The United States maintains 700 military bases around the world. No other country does that. The People's Republic of China has one military base outside China. Russia has none. And the rest of the world don't have these kinds of bases. Our military is enormous, but it is about to become much more enormous. Now, the government is going to be pressed by the creditors abroad, the Chinese, the country that has lent even more to the United States than China, which is Japan, Britain, which is number 3, and rich people around the world and corporations, they're all creditors, and they're all going to be telling the United States, they already are, we don't like what you're doing. You are borrowing way too much money. And you know, we're not going to lend to you. You know, there are 3 agencies that rate the credit worthiness of borrowers. There are 3 American companies, Standard & Poor, Moody's, and Fitch. That's the name of the 3 companies. They've all reduced the credit rating of the United States already from AAA, which is the best you can get, and which other countries have, and which the U.S. used to have. We don't have it anymore. The credit agencies know what I'm telling you. The United States is becoming a risky borrower, and the lenders are saying, we will lend to you, but you cannot keep running these deficits. You cannot, for example, impose a tariff that raises $200 billion while you're increasing your defense spending by $600 billion. That's out of order. So you're going to have to spend less on other things, then we'll lend you the money, because you get the extra $200 billion from your tariffs and you lower your spending on everything else. Well, now let me tell you what everything else is. Number 1, that's what Elon Musk and that phony Department of Governmental Efficiency was all about in the first half of this year. Elon Musk went in and fired tens of thousands of government employees who stopped doing their job. They stopped inspecting our food, and we're having lots of food poisoning outbreaks. They cut back on health expenditures, so we have a measles problem in our country, and on and on and on. They didn't maintain the subsidies to health insurance that were put in place during the pandemic, which is why people are seeing and are about to see many more horrible increases in their health insurance premiums, because the government is cutting back. Long story short, what the creditors are pressing on the government is, you want us to lend to you so you can build up your military spectacularly by 50% or more in 1 year? Well, you're going to have to cut back other stuff. The real cost of the war economy is that all of the other things the government does that are not about war get cut back. Helping schools, helping hospitals, helping poor people, helping, everybody one way or another. All of that's going to get cut back if it hasn't been already. We are shifting to a war economy. by a man who ran for president promising to stop the, quote, forever wars that he liked to make fun of. He hasn't stopped them. We have a war in Iran on the edge every day. We already had a short one back in June. The war in Gaza is not over. The war in Ukraine is not over. Sure, he said he could take care of it in a couple of days. Turns out he can't take care of it in the whole year that's gone by. Now, here's the punchline that's really important. There is a way to stop this. And that means you have to think about the elections that are coming in November of this year. 10 months from now, we're going to have an election. And that election will see whether this kind of a government with this kind of priority, taking the country, us, who already have the biggest military in the world, and making it wildly bigger, so that we, of course, stoke an arms race. Russia and China will rush to keep up with this. They show they can do everything else we do. They can certainly do this too. If we want the world to go that way, we stay with Mr. Trump. If we don't, well, you can finish the sentence for me. If interventions like this strike you as useful, if they are informative, then please share this video with others. That's why we make them. Your friends, your co-workers, your family, your neighbors. And of course, if you can contribute and help pay the costs of producing and distributing these videos, that would be enormously helpful and equally enormously appreciated by everyone on the Democracy at Work team. Thank you.